shadow of an extraordinary national event. And as this is our first meeting since the death of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, we shall take a moment to pause and reflect. Please stand if you're able and join me in a minute's silence to respect and honour Her Majesty's life and service. And I'd like to welcome Councillor Guy Renner-Thompson attending as a substitute. Welcome, Guy. Are there any declarations of interest that people haven't already declared on a permanent basis? Nobody's indicating. Thank you. I think I speak for all of the Cabinet that we would like to place on record our thanks to all of the officers in our 3 local authorities, with all of the arrangements and procedures taking place around the death and the funeral of the Queen and the proclamation of the new King, and particularly to our Lord Lieutenant and her office, who's here in a different capacity as Chair of the North East LEP. So thank you, everybody. Can we confirm the minutes of the previous meeting are an accurate record? That's agreed, thank you. So the first substantive item is the appointment of a new VCSE as ambassador. So that's the voluntary community and social enterprise sector we work very closely with at the North of Tyne as one of the best ways to achieve an inclusive economy. And our ambassador, Robin Fry, has resigned from his position in a good way because a new opportunity has opened up for him. And I want to place on record my thanks. I meet with Robin regularly. His advice has been superb and the way he connects us with that sector. And I'm sure Cabinet thanks him for his service and wishes him the best in his future endeavours. I don't know if Robin would like to say anything at this point.
Thank you, Mayor. So just reflecting a little bit on some of the opportunities I've had as the ambassador. It ranges from taking part in the Wellbeing Roundtable led by Carnegie Trust, meeting Michael Marmot, who I'm a real fanboy of at the Health Inequalities Roundtable, working with Henry and others on the Anchor Institution Conversations, helping to shape some of the UK Shared Prosperity Fund ideas, and also co-chairing the voluntary sector stakeholder group. So I would like to place on record my thanks for the support that I've received whilst in the role. The fact that there is a VCSE sector ambassador in itself is really impressive, but the fact that in that role I've been able to develop my own knowledge but also make a contribution and feel like I was really listened to has been absolutely brilliant. And just in case people aren't aware, the reason I am stepping down from that role is I'm leaving Voda to become an employee at the North of Tyne Combined Authority. So whilst I won't be at this table, I'll still be connected to the work. So yeah, I'd like to just say thanks for the opportunity. Also, I have my last Voda board meeting shortly, so I will be leaving after this item to get back to have some good endings at Voda.
Thanks, Robin. Normally at this point I'd say don't be a stranger, but that's not going to be an option, is it? So. We now need to appoint a new ambassador. I'm nominating Lisa Goodwin, who's Chief Executive of Connected Voice and was actually former Chief Executive of Voda before Robin took that position. So she's my nominee for the mayoral ambassador for the voluntary community and social enterprise sector. And the recommendation on that is that Cabinet accepts that recommendation. And that's agreed. Thank you very much. Item number 6, thank you, Robin, is the Audit and Standards Committee annual report. And actually, I'll just invite Mark Oldham to present the item.
Thank you, Mayor. The report's written by the Chair of the Audit and Standards Committee on behalf of the committee. He is currently on leave in Menorca, lucky him, so he's asked me just to say a few words on his behalf and present the report. I'm pleased to present this first annual report from the Audit and Standards Committee to Cabinet. The report provides a summary of the work undertaken by the committee during 2021-2022. The committee has an annual programme of work which is reviewed and agreed each year. That programme is designed to allow the Audit and Standards Committee to deliver its terms of reference. And it covers matters such that are important It covers governance and control matters which are important to all within the authority's boundaries. The Chartered Institute of Public Finance and Accountancy recommends that audit committees should assess how they are performing. A review was undertaken earlier this year by the Chair in combination with the then Chief Internal Auditor, Kevin MacDonald. The authority's committee arrangements were found to be in line with best practice, and the review has identified a few minor areas to help the committee work better and help increase its support and accountability to Cabinet. One of those items is this report being presented today, so that allows you to understand what has gone on and provide any feedback. The report provides a summary of the committee's work. This included receiving the Chief Internal Auditor's annual opinion for 2020-21, so that's kind of a year beyond, on the framework of governance, risk management and control, and quarterly updates of work on internal audit. The annual governance statement was also presented, as were the annual statement of accounts. A number of other reports were presented by all of the different stakeholders, and the Chair's asked me to point out that there was lots of appropriate and good questions, certainly challenging, and appropriate responses were made. The Chair has also asked me to say that he's enjoyed being part of the committee since its delivery and the opening, so it's gone from setup phase to now seeing the organisation more into delivery mode, and he's seen the risk profile of the organisation change through that. And he's asked me to take any questions that you may have or pass them on if I can't answer. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. Does anybody have any questions at this time? And if not, of course, people can still continue to pass questions on, I'm sure. Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you very much, Mark, for that summary. All of that is available in the public documentation pack anyway, should anyone be interested to follow it. Our recommendation is that we note the Annual Audit and Standards Committee report, which I'm sure we do. So thank you very much for your time, Mark. Move on to item number 7 on the agenda. This is the Northumberland Line Economic Growth Corridor. Now there's going to be, I'm sure, a lot to say about this matter, so I'll keep it brief. The Northumberland Line is the reopening of the old freight line from Ashington through Blythe Bebbside into Northumberland Park, where it will link with the Tyne and Wear Metro, then come through Manners and into Newcastle Central Station. It's a very physical manifestation of our combined authority, in that it passes through all 3 local authorities and is a great success of what we can achieve when we're working together. So I'd like to invite Norma Redfern to present this item. Norma.
Thank you, Chair. Well, I think you can all imagine how delighted I am to introduce the report on the Northumberland Line Economic Corridor Strategy. Something we got together and wished and hoped for a number of years now. And to those very negative people who said it never happened, I'm delighted to say that it is going to happen. And that's happening because we've come together to make it happen and prove to everyone that this will bring great, great benefits to the area, to be quite honest. Well, as you know, we agreed the Northumberland Line at Cabinet back in March 2021. But our collective commitment goes back much further than that. This has been an ambition for us around the table for many, many years. In front of us today, we've got a 10-point delivery plan. It's agreed with our partners, and the benefits will be properly shared right across the region. It includes a 10 million allocation from our investment fund for the people and the places who could and should benefit from this line. Make no mistake, this is about our people, the people whose lives can change for the better because there are numerous opportunities in this development. It's really exciting time right now. The development of the line is nearing the formal construction, thanks to everyone who's made that possible and working extremely hard. So we need to start planning to deliver for the communities around the Northumberland Line. What we now think of as the Northumberland Line Economic Corridor. This corridor will create green jobs, invest in first and last mile transport connectivity, and reduce our car dependency. It will help to tackle deprivation and improve the quality of life for local people. It will boost the visitor economy, enhancing the profile and the perception of the local area. And in our next report, it was going to be Councillor Wearmouth, but it's our Guy. I only know your first name, Guy. I do apologise. But in a friendly manner. I know you're going to talk about this in a friendly manner. Yeah, thank you very much. But I know Councillor Wearmouth, but Guy is now replacing him, will be talking about in the next. We know that improving a railway line can improve the lives of those who live near them, but only if we are resilient and invest in inclusive growth for the whole of the Northern Tyne area. We will see the long-term change we need for our people and their communities. And I'm saying, well, I think I recommend this report, and I'm really excited about it. And thanks to all of us people in Northumberland who's been helping us to get that cracking, and in Newcastle, who've come together and say, this is really exciting for this area. It will bring lots and lots of opportunities and watch our economy grow for the local people. So thank you so much. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Norma. Would anybody else like to comment next? Councillor Sanderson.
Yeah, thank you very much. If I may, I think most of us are aware of the huge economic benefits that this money will bring, and also the Northumberland Line as a whole. It will also bring an incredible improvement in terms of our environment, because we will see so many less car journeys and more journeys by public transport on this rail line that will take people from South East Northumberland into Newcastle and beyond and back in half an hour, and it is a great development. I think probably the thing I'm most proud of, actually, in this is the way that it is a cross-council, cross-political party, cross-national government, cross-local government, joining of all the talents that have brought us to where we are today. And all I can say on behalf of Northumberland County Council, as part of the North of Tyne Combined Authority, is to say thank you very much to colleagues for helping this take off. As it will make a huge contribution, not just to Northumberland, not just to the North of Tyne, but the whole of the North East region. So thank you.
Thank you, Glenn. Councillor Kemp, Nick.
Thank you. I'm really delighted to have the report here today and to support it. I think it's a demonstration of people-focused economic alliance and presents a really excellent example of where public sector economic intervention should occur for the benefit of all of our residents across all of our communities. It unlocks truly the potential that exists in the North of Tyne Combined Authority footprint. It's demonstration, though, that not simply buildings and infrastructure are the drivers of the economy. It's the unlocking of the opportunity and the potential that follows with it. So the skills opportunities exist, the environmental benefits that exist, and the joining of our towns and cities. And I think, COVID, the last 2 years has demonstrated where isolation exists, problems exacerbate, where opportunities to work together and collaborate demonstrates where innovation occurs. And I think this intervention is something that can provide all of that. I'm biased in some ways in the sense that the opportunities it brings for Newcastle, but I'm also pragmatic enough to know that it benefits all of my partners, residents in the whole region. So I'm very, very proud, exactly, but you know, it's always mutual, Glenn. So I'm just very pleased to welcome the report and support it.
Thanks, Nick. When you were talking there, Glenn, it made me remind, I used to work on Kitty Brewster Industrial Estate when I lived in Heaton. And I remember sitting in traffic jams regularly, getting up and down the Spine Road, and particularly at Moor Farm roundabout. And I would have been able, when the line was open, if it had been open in those days, to actually get off near Kitty Brewster and just walk to work and get the metro to interchange at Northumberland Park. So it really does make a big difference. Did it keep its wheels? It's going to bring jobs, boost businesses, get homes built, reduce carbon emissions, and our £10 million is going to lever in £130 million. What's not to like? So, Norma.
I just want, there's something as well, you know, about when people talk about great ideas and they sit back and say, oh, yes, it'll never happen. Well, you know, we've had a lot of that, haven't we? But it is going to happen. And that proves a point, to be quite honest, that we can make things happen in this region.
Yeah. So the details of the 10-point plan are in the documentation. Let's quickly run through the recommendations. We've noted the contents of the report. And from everybody's comments, we've clearly endorsed the approach to the Northumberland Line Economic Corridor 10-point plan. Can we formally agree the £10 million allocation as in recommendation 3? Agreed. Excellent, thank you. And items 4 and 5, that's to authorise the Chief Executive to make the necessary business cases and delivery plans in consultation with Investment Panel and Mayor, and the finalised conditions under item 5. Are they agreed?
Agreed.
Thank you. That's good, because if we'd agreed 3 and not 4 and 5, we would have been stuck, wouldn't we? So item 8 is the North of Tyne Digital, and update and the next steps on this. The digital economy is obviously one of our core strategic areas. We've made a lot of progress on it, but it's such a broad area that covers infrastructure and skills and inward investment, and there's so much. So in the absence of Councillor Wearmouth, would Guy like to give the report?
Thank you, Chairman. As we all know, digital infrastructure is now just as important as our other public utilities that come into our homes, and this has all been reinforced by the COVID-19 pandemic, where we all had to work and socialise from home, where we weren't allowed out. So the internet was really everyone's last bastion of sanity. Netflix subscribers grew by 10 million a quarter during the pandemic, but more importantly, our local businesses were also digitalising their businesses at the same time, selling, taking bookings and moving experiences online wherever they could. The digital sector has also been resilient through the pandemic. Since 2018, the sector has increased productivity by over 12% at a time when the wider economy has shrunk. But not everyone and every business has the connectivity they need, and there are significant disparities between our communities. The North of Tyne area is ranked 194th out of 309 in England for connectivity, which means that 12% of the North of Tyne does not have access to reliable 4G, and 15,000 homes do not have access to what the government calls acceptable connectivity. Northumberland has the biggest challenges, but there are pockets of poor connectivity across the North of Tyne. Nearly 200,000 premises do not have access to gigabit-capable connectivity, meaning they're not future-proof for the next generation of internet-hungry technologies that will drive business, innovation and productivity. And in Northumberland, that's nearly 80% of premises. Colleagues will know that we are tackling this in a variety of different ways. We've developed the joint connectivity vision in collaboration with Northumberland, Newcastle and North Tyneside councils. Our aim is to do everything we can to improve connectivity in our places, innovating where connectivity is good and intervening where it isn't. Examples of which include the local full fibre networks programme. Through this, over 230 public premises within Northumberland have been connected to fibre internet. This provides the infrastructure to connect thousands more premises and households in rural communities much earlier than planned. We're also doing some barrier busting, ensuring our council processes smooth the path to much needed infrastructure and deployment, and investing where the market isn't where we need it to be in both rural and urban residential communities. We are supporting growth, building on our investment in the digital sector. We're promoting and raising the profile of businesses who are looking ahead to the digital world and have produced an ambition statement for the sector in partnership with stakeholders. I'm also delighted we're pioneering a smart data environment with the National Innovation Centre for Data, making cutting-edge data science skills available to local companies. And we also have the Digital Inward Investment Project, which has recently announced its first success, 160 new jobs with the US-owned tech company Credara. Finally, all our skills programs now have a focus on digital innovation, not least Skills for Growth, skills boot camps, the Tech Talent Engine program, and all that comes to over 15 million invested on employer-led skills. These courses include the skills needed for broadband deployment. 90 businesses are already involved in the industry-led talent program, the Tech Talent Engine in partnership with Dynamo. And our digital inclusion program, in partnership with the North East LEP, is developing solutions from affordability to access to skills. All told, that's well over £27 million of investment to grow the digital economy, promote innovation with technologies like 5G and improved connectivity and skills. In short, we're getting everyone connected no matter where they live, we're supporting digital businesses to grow and succeed, and we're providing tech skills so people are there to match the jobs. And I can testify personally that government intervention works because Project Gigabit, which the government launched some time ago, recently connected my entire village to superfast internet, and my own internet in my house went from 2 gigabits to over 90, which has made a huge difference to our how we can work in our rural area. It's really been quite transformative. So I really do recommend this report to Cabinet and hope you can support it.
Thank you, Guy, and I'm very pleased that you can now watch the football in high definition. Nick.
Thank you, Jeremy. Well, I hope that this investment leads to having that level of connectivity in built-up environments as well, like my kitchen, for example. I think it's phenomenal to see this level of investment. It goes back to the previous project. Really, this is about opening up and unlocking potential. And I think that's really fundamentally what the key driver of the Combined Authority has been all about. So the fact that it's of such a critical feature for our economic future as a region and as a city region, it's very welcome. The economy itself has been shored up through digital in the region, and it has enabled and encourages continued growth. But it also critically, alongside the areas that you identified, Guy, which is in the high growth, the new and emerging industries, this is about the foundational economy as well. This is really about from the building blocks, and if we get the basics right, then we can only do better. The Home of the Digital brochure is the first step in illustrating that our tech economy has a real distinctiveness, and I welcome the ambition for the sector that the brochure sets out, and I do look forward to championing this throughout my time as portfolio lead. Our work on the digital connectivity is also critical, and it's not just in the rural areas, as we all know, but in urban areas, connectivity can be patchy, although not in your neighbourhood anymore, I'm delighted to hear, and access to online services difficult for some residents, and we can and must improve this for all. The cost of living crisis is biting, so we should promote the recent changes in the application process for broadband social tariffs. They're now easier than ever to access, and we need to promote that opportunity. And working with our partners in the DWP, we should ensure all eligible residents are benefiting from the savings available to them. We've already supported over 3,000 residents to continue to learn online from home, providing much needed laptops and connection. And I know my Cabinet colleague, Councillor Karen Kilgour, is committed to making sure we have a long-term approach to tackling the root causes of digital exclusion through her portfolio. Digital infrastructure as a utility to every citizen has to be our vision, regardless of where you live and how much you earn. It's not a right, it is a right, I beg your pardon, I put the teeth back in. It is a right, not a privilege, for everyone in a digitally empowered region to succeed. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nick. Lucy, sorry.
Thank you, Chair. It's a really welcome report, and this report and the report that we've just looked at about the Northumberland line kind of bring me to some general observations, and I wasn't sure if this was the right place, but I'll get my general observations out. This is all so positive, and we're hearing example after example, as Mayor Redfern has so eloquently put this afternoon, about how well we are working within our combined authority. But as we lift our heads and look to a potential different structure and a larger structure, if we move in that direction, and Councillor Kemp made reference to the stakeholders in digital and so on, I begin to think about the wider area. I would associate real digital advance in Gateshead as much as I would in parts of Dispatch, if you think about the work of Proto and the company in the clusters that have done that. And we're long beyond the days when if it doesn't happen in our bit, you know, it can't happen over there. This is a very collaborative area, as the work of the LEP has demonstrated. And so I'm beginning to muse on the UK Shared Prosperity Fund. And I guess my question, which I am getting to, Chair, is how are we developing, you and Henry, developing the conversations with our partners outside this authority to maximise the Shared Prosperity Fund, in particular to support areas like this around digital and innovation? The phrase I keep using in the excellent consultation meetings that have happened around Shared Prosperity Fund are don't throw baby out with bathwater. So how are we supporting innovation, skills, growth, the growth hub, for example, in those discussions? And I think digital is a sort of good peg to hang it on, because we know that we've got great expertise in this combined authority, but great expertise half a mile down the road as well. I think I got to a question in the end.
Thanks.
Thank you.
In terms of digital overall, it's often the case that we describe the catching up aspect of it, the patchy areas where the connectivity isn't there. Digital is going to be underpinning everything, as Guy said in his introduction. You know, if you go back 100 years, at the point when people were thinking, oh, shall I buy a new horse or shall I buy a car? This is the new world. It's all going to be digital. And 5G is going to underpin a lot of that necessarily. We're going to see tech advances. We're going to see medical taking advantage of that mega fast bandwidth. And it's making sure that the way Nick's described it a few times, that the potential is unlocked. So I'll ask Henry to describe some of the things in the Shared Prosperity Fund. And it is actually, I think Carl's mentioning some of the things later. But we have, one of the challenges we have is that variation. So although we have, particularly in parts of rural Northumberland, where it's actually quite hard to get a 4G signal on your phone in places, we have at the same time the Stelium data loop, where the connectivity, we have a 70, I think it's millisecond delay to North America, whereas London has an 80 milliseconds. So we're faster in many ways. And it is about unlocking all of that. So I'll hand over to Henry and give you some of the specific answers, Lucy, and I'm sure Carl will pick some later as well.
I won't say much, only to completely agree with the premise of what you said, which is that we are strong as North of Tyne, but strong as a whole region, and have some really fantastic building blocks to build on in terms of not only the bit of this that's about supporting our digital industries and supporting growth, but also the social policy side of it as well, and digital inclusion, which is such an important part of this. We would want to work through all of this with a couple of specific collaborations underpinning this. So one is a very good and strong collaboration that happens via our LA7 economic directors, as it's called, so some good collaboration across our local authorities in the region more broadly. Obviously, we're working with colleagues at the LEP and bringing that into the evidence base that's been developed for the Shared Prosperity Fund. So underpinning what is different arrangements for different lead authorities currently is a good quality evidence base that's been developed with a lot of collaboration across the piece. So I would want to completely endorse what you're saying and work as collaboratively as possible on next steps.
Thanks. Can I invite Norma, please?
I think we can't afford not to support this. This is the way forward. This is the new world we're moving into. In fact, many of us are changing every week and every month. So, and our young people coming through from our education systems are very adept at this kind of work anyway. So we can't afford not to support it. But as Nick says, we have to remember those people in those areas that aren't as lucky and haven't got that, and we don't just skip over them and move on and make everything wonderful, because without those people, we will not move forward, to be quite honest. And that's something they need, those skills, to actually improve the lives of themselves and their families. But yes, this is a great report, and it really is important to the whole region, Lucy. Yeah, no problem.
Thank you, Norma. I can't see anyone else indicating. So we'll move to the recommendations. Recommendation number 1 is to note the progress as described, which obviously everybody's agreed on the basis of their comments. Secondly is to note the steps for the 5G and Future Connectivity Programme, specifically to launch a call for private sector co-invested propositions to support the commercialisation of 5G and low latency connectivity. Can I just get a few nods off people? There's the nods, thank you. And item number 3 is to endorse that deeper collaboration across the North of Tyne to deliver the shared connectivity vision as set out in Appendix 2 with the appropriate delegations and governance as described. And can we have that agreed, please? And yes, there we are. Thank you very much. Okay, thank you, everybody. This moves us on to item 9, which is the financial planning and budget process, which is Janice Gillespie, our Financial Director, will talk us through.
Thank you, Mayor. This is the initial report to Cabinet, which outlines the process that we will follow for the authority's financial planning and budget for next financial year, 23-24, and to update the 4-year medium-term financial plan. So it sets out our approach to updating the medium-term financial strategy and the key areas of risk that we will focus on, our approach to engagement, and then ultimately the timetable that we will follow to that. I guess in terms of engagement, we proactively engage with the VC, VCSE and business sector. It continues to be a challenge for us how we engage with the public in general, so that's something we've talked about and will continue to work on to try and improve that area and help the public understand our budget. And I think the thing we're going to try and do a little bit smarter this year is around that absolute direct link between the medium-term financial plan and the corporate plan, so we're absolutely able to articulate the use of resources, whether it's people or finance, in terms of the delivery of that overall corporate plan and the vision. That was all I wanted to say.
Thank you very much, Janice. The details of the process are obviously written out. Does anyone have any burning questions on? No, I really didn't think anyone would have any burning questions on process there. So the recommendation is simply to agree to approve that process. It's obviously not about setting the budget, it's just how we go about it. And I can see nods there. Thank you very much. That's approved. Item number 10 is the investment fund update. The investment fund is obviously a catch-all for lots of projects, and I'll invite Councillor Johnson, to run us through this.
Thank you, Mayor Driscoll. My update to you is on the economic outlook dominated by higher prices and signs of a weakening economy. And it's fair to say a government of the last couple of months who has been stagnant. The prices of food and non-alcoholic drinks are increasing rapidly, with many basic foodstuffs like milk, pasta, flour up by over 20% in the last year. Inflation is still around 10% of the last year, driven by higher electricity, gas and fuel prices. High inflation also reflects a shortage of goods and materials, the Ukraine crisis, trade frictions, and of course the ongoing fallout from COVID. Average pay has increased by about 6%, but it's much less than that for many. Sadly, further industrial action is still inevitable as workers feel the need of further increase in pay, as the real value of pay has fallen faster than at any time in the past 20 years. I believe the economic challenges we face as a region can no longer be solved by centralist control. We need to embrace a new type of politics that embraces everyone in the region, a collaboration built on consensus, not division, something this combined authority has been particularly good at. Engaging with people, not excluding them, a region that draws on the widest possible range of talent and expertise, not narrow circles of power 300 miles away. This means we must decide as a regional community what is acceptable and what isn't. poor wages, 0-hour jobs, no sick or holiday pay. These only lead to poverty, exclusion and low productivity. We must together in this region set out over store what we expect for everyone, every employer, business and public sector organisation, and that expectation is good work. Good work, paid decently, respected and valued for its contribution. It's a system change, a cultural change and a change that we know will improve productivity. It will create a climate of economic stability and growth, and most of all, it will include the skills and abilities of all of our residents. Imagine a region where you simply can't get a contract for your business if you don't pay decent wages or sick pay. A region that says if you're not a great employer, don't bother to try here because we only accept good employers. A region that doesn't need food banks. That is where we should be. I'm delighted to say my councillor colleague, Councillor Kilgour, create the next phase of the Good Work Pledge. We do not accept that organisations need to evolve for them to recognise that the bottom line is always better if you pay well and respect your workforce. But we're also tired of lots of other things: homelessness, poverty, thanklessness, and the simple lack of humanity that we see when some people can't afford to live and others don't pay millions in taxes. We must campaign for a Good Work Pledge. We must make it the only way people can do business around here. We must hit and exceed the 900 sign-ups. With this investment and our collective backing, we really can. We've always talked of zero poverty and zero carbon. For us, they're hand in hand. Good green jobs has to be the answer for a sustainable, inclusive economy. Pleased to see Councillor Wearmouth leading the way, meeting the needs of the offshore wind and subsea supply chain. We know that the low carbon energy sector provides a game-changing economic opportunity for our region, particularly in and around the Port of Tyne. The investment in Howden Yard will make a massive difference to unlock further growth. The offshore technology sector really can change the fabric of our region socially, economically and politically with the opportunities it brings. Add to that the advice and support we're giving to businesses to help them reduce their carbon emissions. We're creating a progressive consensus on good green jobs so we can meet the challenges on the current economic climate. No economy can sustain itself without the construction industry, in particular housing. I know my colleague Mayor Redfern is making great progress with the Brownfield Housing Fund. Today we need to agree another housing site, the former Moorside First School in Newbiggin by the Sea, Northumberland. This project means that half the fund has now been committed, and we are well on our way to build another 2,000 homes. We are tackling the issues that affect local community directly: work, housing and quality of life of our residents right across the region. None more so than our Culture and Creative programme. Having somewhere to live, work and feel proud of is a necessary part of who we are. The Berwick Culture and Creative Zone, along with Clayton Street and North Shields, will be a fantastic asset. The Berwick Zone in particular will create nearly 50 jobs, develop community engagement and involve local schools and volunteers. It will showcase the town as a celebrated cultural destination in harmony with local people and their communities. The project discussed in this report built on a previous investment fund commitments of £100.2 million, and we are forecast to create our 4,635 jobs, almost half of our 30-year target, with 962 jobs already in place. We are investing, we are coming together to tackle long-standing challenges, and we are looking forward to opportunities to real vision for what we can achieve together, to shift the way we live our lives in the region, our beliefs, our aspirations, our values and our norms, changing the region together, and I recommend this report to Cabinet.
Thank you, Carl. Thank you very much. Would anybody else like to make any comments? Glenn?
Thank you very much. I just want to underline the work that's being done in Berwick, which is very valuable for the town. Berwick is a changing place. It's growing very much in stature so far as arts are concerned. We know we already have a very successful literary festival there, which is incredibly well supported. But we also have the barracks and the development that's taking place there, and also the new Maltings Theatre project, which will be underway fairly soon. So it's really important, this bit of work, because it is it gives confidence to Berwick, because I think for some years it's felt it was sort of slightly out on a limb, neither in Scotland nor in Northumberland, England, and they are very much a growing force and entity, and I think culture in particular will play a big part in that feeling of confidence as they go forward.
Thanks, Glenn. I would echo that. Yeah. Norma?
I really enjoyed reading that, to be quite honest. And for some time now, it has been rather disappointing that people make decisions and sometimes people aren't at the front of their planning. And I honestly believe that here we've been able to do that. When you talk to residents and when you talk to businesses, they're concerned about jobs, skills for their families, education for the young people, a decent house to live in, a decent environment, and the green agenda is high on everybody's mind, in everyone's mind now. And I'm really delighted that when you read out that report, we're being able to address the things that are really important to the people we serve. No, it's not rocket science. When you talk to people and say what's important to them, it's jobs for themselves and the children. It's about a decent place to live and decent housing. And it's about, they're concerned about the climate change and the green agenda, we're addressing that. And also about education for the children. So all I'm going to say to you, I welcome this report. It speaks well to everyone. So thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Norma. I was with the Tyne Task Force on Friday, and it was interesting to look out from Swans across that old site and how it's being cleared. And we're proposing £3 million here, nearly, for the Howden Yard. And this is about turbocharging that green industrial revolution. We have the Culture and Creative Zone in Berwick, £1.5 million there. We have reached a total of around 1,570 new homes being built. And these are good quality homes with higher affordability and environmental standards than is required, because that's important. And everything that Norma was saying about people caring about the future is not just jobs, it's good jobs. And that's what the Good Work Pledge is there to do. We're now, I think, about 46,000 people are covered by it. This is the funding to continue that project for the next few years. But just one thing that I think, with the change of administration, the direction, I'm a little bit concerned about is reports about investment zones and the possibility of changing employment legislation in those and the displacement effects. So I think that is something that we would have to keep an eye on as a cabinet. And I know it's not been published, but it's often the case that you have to influence things before they're published if you want an effect. So I certainly think that's the direction we should be moving. So anyway, with that, let's move on to the recommendations. We note the progress to date on the investment fund, the key milestones, and the figures for the jobs, 4,600 or thereabouts, and the houses and the investment, which is all good stuff. The specific ones, can we approve the £730,000 funding for the Good Work Pledge programme? Agreed, thank you. Authorise the Chief Exec to make the final approvals for both the Howden Yard at 2.9 million, the 1.5 million for the Berwick Culture and Creative Zone, and what may be up to 936,000 for the Moorside Housing Scheme in Newbiggin. Thank you. And authorise the Director of Finance to accept grants from government with respect to the Shared Prosperity Fund and the Create Growth programme on behalf of the North of Tyne. Yeah, I wouldn't have thought anyone would say, no, we're going to turn the money down. Number 5, authorise the Chief Exec in consultation with the Director of Finance and the appropriate Cabinet members to approve the commissioning of the subsequent grant agreements associated with the Shared Prosperity Fund. Thank you. And finally, authorise the Chief Exec with the appropriate consultations to approve the deployment of any subsequent grant agreements with DCMS for their Create Growth programme. Thank you. The next item is just the quarterly report from the North East Local Enterprise Partnership, and this is going to be presented by Janice Gillespie, our Finance Director.
Thank you, Mayor. As you said, this is the quarterly report which gives Cabinet a summary of those decisions taken by the LEP board over the last quarter. So it sets out kind of the details of the various funding decisions for the various investment programmes, and you have more detailed analysis in appendix to the report. So it's for information, and those decisions are progressing So happy to take any questions, and Lucy's here as well to help me out if needed.
Thank you, Janice. All the details, as Janice said, they're in the appendix. There's quite a lot. Obviously, we go through this as we are the accountable body for the LEP, but not necessarily the decision-making body for the LEP. So unless Lucy would like to say anything on behalf of the LEP.
The only thing I want to say, I never miss this opportunity, is to thank Janice and her team for the support they give for the LEP's work. We couldn't manage without her and her team, so thank you.
Thank you. And I'm sure those thanks will be well received, because I know around accounts time, when everything comes in at the same time, the team work incredibly hard, and Katie as well. Thank you. So the recommendation is just to note the report there, which obviously we have noted the report. Thank you. Okay, well, the date and time of the next meeting is 2 p.m. on 22nd of November 2022. That will be at County Hall in Morpeth. And with that, I'd like to close the meeting and thank everybody for attending. Thank you.